a Foundation for Learning Success podcast on the education system policy. Speakers includes Barvin Oliver, Erica Pearson, Shalise Samuel, Sally Delancey, and Delicia Bean, and Ayana James. Under the education policy document, the goals includes obtaining the technological skills and knowledge that is required for sustainable education development, to educate and prepare students to adapt to the new online learning environment, to ensure the students' skills and abilities are enhanced during the online learning, to ensure that students receive the best education under the new educational regulations governing COVID-19, ensuring a safe learning environment. The objectives of the educational policy document includes to provide a safe and secure learning environment, to ensure teacher training and development is continuous, addressing the issue of learning loss, provide a sponsorship team to students and parents support according to their needs, to ensure quality teaching.
The situation analysis. A number of studies have underscored the global impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on students and the education system. According to the World Bank, the pandemic has disrupted the education for approximately 1.6 billion students worldwide. Hence, the Caribbean region was not immune to this global phenomenon, which forced the students to quickly adopt the new educational normal. In March 2020, the government of Trinidad and Tobago ordered the closure of all public and private schools so as to curb the spread of the deadly virus. Consequently, students had no choice but to engage in a form of independent learning which required the use of remote technologies. However, in addition to the loss of the face-to-face teacher interactions of a normal classroom, this type of learning exposed several inadequacies in the education system. Interestingly, a study by Paxton et al. 2021 revealed that the pandemic has affected and left an indelible mark on the educational attainment of secondary school students. One community in which secondary school students were affected was the borough of Point Fortin, an urban area located on the southwestern part of the island of Trinidad and Tobago. Point Fortin is home to a total of 3 secondary schools: the Point Fortin East Secondary School, the Point Fortin West Secondary School, and Holy Name Convent, Point Fortin. With this sudden shift away from the face-to-face classroom, a number of students did not have the necessary electronic devices, for example, laptops, desktops, and tablets, etc., to attend their scheduled classes. Moreover, a significant number of households were plagued with the problem of not having the ideal number of devices required for all children to participate in their online learning. For instance, a household with 3 children at different educational levels, that is early childhood, primary, and secondary, now required a total of 3 separate devices. A few teachers also struggled to maneuver the online learning platforms, for example, the Zoom platform, Microsoft Teams, and Google Classroom. As a result, teaching started at a slower than normal pace, creating an even further loss in instructional and teaching time. Secondary school education remains a top and urgent priority in Trinidad and Tobago. In order to mitigate and reverse learning losses, the secondary education system must be able to respond effectively to the ongoing COVID-19 situation. As well, it must become equipped to combat against similar future disruptions. In order to successfully meet the goals and objectives, the presenting issues would be addressed in the following ways. 1. to assist students in acquiring the necessary electronic devices. 2. To offer training to students on how to use those devices. 3. To offer training to teachers on how to use the online learning platforms. 4. To engage the assistance of stakeholders, for example, parents, governmental and non-governmental organizations, faith-based organizations, the corporate sector, and to engage foreign policy and agencies, etc. And lastly, to redefine and amend the present education model. The secondary school level was the focus of this education policy document. There are 3 schools in the borough of Point Fortin, that is, Holy Name Convent, Point Fortin, with a population of 630 students, the Point Fortin West Secondary School, with a population of 655 students, and the Point Fortin East Secondary School with a total of 678 students. Hence, there are 1,963 students enrolled at the 3 secondary schools in the area. After the assessment, it was revealed that 33% of the overall student population, that is 648 students, were without the necessary electronic devices. 61% of the 648 students without devices, that is a total of 395 students, were either in Form 4 or Form 5, preparing to write the Caribbean Examination Council or CXC examinations, or were students in Form 6 preparing to write the Caribbean Advanced Proficiency Examination or CAPE.
Stakeholders' involvement. As stated by my colleague in the situation analysis, the COVID-19 pandemic posed many challenges for the secondary schools in the Point Fortin area. In an effort to help cushion the impacts of the pandemic on learning, many stakeholders in education, such as parents, non-governmental organizations, teachers, and the Ministry of Education, had to step in and give a helping hand. In a study conducted by the Ministry of Education Curriculum Department, the new mode of teaching resulted in students feeling overwhelmed and unmotivated. Thus, parents had to step in to monitor and motivate their children at home during the stint of the virtual schooling. Due to the sudden shift to virtual schooling, a number of students were not equipped with the necessary tools to access the virtual classroom. Thus, many non-governmental organizations played a role in assisting the students by providing the necessary resources such as laptops to aid them in adapting to the new online environment. Many teachers lacked the necessary skills to properly maneuver the platforms used to conduct online schooling. Thus, the Ministry of Education provided online training to teachers to assist them with improving their intellectual skills and qualities in the development in the new environment. Lastly, in an effort to provide equal access to education to all, many teachers use different platforms to contact and provide educational material to students to aid them in keeping abreast with the lessons conducted on the designated online platforms such as Google Classroom, Microsoft Teams, and Zoom. In a study conducted at the Point Fortin West Secondary School, at least 10% of students were mainly contacted via WhatsApp by teachers in order to provide educational material. Access to educational opportunities. In a survey conducted by the Ministry of Education, among the 3 secondary schools located in the Point Forthing area, the shift to digital strategies for remote education resulted in significant challenges, such as the acquisition of pedagogical skills by teachers and the existing inequalities in the relation to access and the use of communication technologies. Due to Point Forthing being an urban district, access to internet connection is highly concentrated among the students. On the other hand, with regards to access to communication technologies, 42% of students have access to a computer and 40.5% have access to a tablet. However, 81% of students have access to a mobile phone at home with internet. Though the access to a mobile phone with internet may be significantly greater, this does not guarantee students access to academic activities, for computers and tablets are the preferred devices to make sufficient use of digital educational resources.
Financial and economic relevance. Within the Caribbean, economic and financial development has been invested in our society today. The reaction of the pandemic has demonstrated a long life-threatening situation that has brought harm to the country's educational system. The educational system has been affected by the shutdown, resulting in students adapting to a new learning environment. But this learning environment caused an effect on students' learning ability, as the majority of the students have little to no access to internet connection, along with resources such as computers and laptops or tablets to access their learning platforms in the continuity of their studies. Due to the unavailability of resources of technology, the secondary level students are in a position of abnormally high concentration based on financing. Ongoing financial and needs of infrastructure and teacher welfare has made it a significant task to keep under the school's control. Due to the location in the urban area in Trinidad, there is a high level of internet access where the government is willing to provide for students who lack such connection. Internet providers such as Flow and Digicel agreed to assist in providing Wi-Fi connection in the area at which the government is to pay about 80% for such access. Additionally, non-governmental institutions were asked for donations and out of generosity, donated 100 computers to facilitate the learning process of the secondary school students. China, on the other hand, contributed 50,000 TT towards assisting the government of Trinidad with their raise in computers for the school. Private investors, which include the Halo Foundation, have supported in donating $20,000 with assistance to facilitate the learning process at the schools. The community in which these schools are located assist the youth by giving their encouragement to continue succeeding despite the hardship that they may endeavor as it pertains to learning. Parents' income has been insufficient as there was a decline in job ability and reduction in payment due to the high hit by the pandemic. Parents whose children are in the secondary level school have been out of work because of the pandemic, making it hard to support the students with the new learning environment. The comfort of the parents can contribute to the development of the students, providing that student with the comfortability and the wise words of success despite the pandemic. The parents' relevance can be that they provide a healthy environment where the students would be comfortable in adapting to a new and safe environment. Training. Teachers need access to training as this is a new environment that they are new to and is in need of the necessary training to assist in the development of a new start to online learning. The Ministry of Education can seek to ensure professionalism is still being carried out by all teachers within the school. Along with this, teachers must ensure that the adequate measures implied are to provide a safe environment for students where it will be made easy for them to learn and access information. Under the new learning system, the Ministry of Education should conduct and facilitate a research-based quality in starting a teacher preparation program. Under the teacher preparation program, it will enable all teachers to engage in a session where they will be trained to keep up with the learning-based assessment and be able to work along with the students under the new post-COVID regulations. Teachers are advised under this program to take notes as this training will allow them to obtain a certificate of completion stating that they are adequately ready to undertake this new learning experience. Additionally, facilitating a policy designed to govern the effectiveness of teachers, their quality and development, and evaluation of their training. The government have the ability to implement a national plan to assess the developments of teachers. Teachers are to be trained as to gaining information and knowledge to the learning platform that is suitable for the situation that the school is in. Teachers are required to upload information to a forum regularly where students should be able to access. Teachers, during a training session, are to be taught the steps to access the online forum to update the students as to information on their courses, performances, and lecture meetings. Moreover, a training session should be implemented to meet the students' needs as it pertains to continuing their journey. Students should be trained as they need to be aware of the learning forums, for example, Google Classroom. As this is the first time a student is accessing this forum, it must be made a requirement to assist students in training sessions as it will provide them with information as to the operation of the online learning platform. Additionally, the principals within time periods must be trained to conduct clinical supervision and assess the ongoing hours during a scheduled class. A disequilibrium may be displayed between the students and teachers. A trainer session will educate the higher heads to how such a problem is to be solved via the online learning regulations. The managers must be able to manage the school through the school-based management system. If the school is left unattended without further instructions to the teachers, there may arise many difficulties and the school may be at a disadvantage and struggle due to the poor management. Also, the principals of the school are to be trained to manage all finances under the school and distribute funds in need of social and economic developments, and ensuring that decisions are implemented to facilitate students' performances. Curriculum context and delivery. Delivery of a school curriculum for progressive learning opportunities should be informed by valid assessment data to be tailored to meet learners' needs, aspirations, and personal developments, and provide multiple means of representation, action, and expression and engagements. The curriculum develops the process and assumptions to assess a student's knowledge and to develop multiple skills and attitudes. Before COVID, the secondary schools within the area were under a curriculum where they engaged in a number of activities that tested their performances. Each student on the curriculum is to obtain an average of no less than 50% of their overall average or GPA. Each student is required to pass at least 5 to 6 subjects per semester, which amount to a total of 80 subjects being passed at the end of a school year. Under the curriculum system, each student is to meet their goals as they are enrolled at the institution in order to be eligible to the new curriculum governing the schools will facilitate in the development of new skills and knowledge of a student.
The role of reflective practice in the policy. Reflective practice is considered an active, dynamic, action-based, and ethical set of skills placed in real time and dealing with real complex and difficult situations. Hence, in order to solve a problem, one must identify it. The Gibbs learning cycle was identified as a theory which will be used to accomplish this task. The first step in the Gibbs cycle is to describe what has happened. As we have discussed, the COVID-19 pandemic has created several issues within the education system. Upon deep reflection, the problems of learning loss created by a lack of laptops and learning devices for students and the inability of teachers to utilize their online platforms. The next step is to describe one's feelings. As public servants, the issue of learning loss has created a great sense of sadness. The evaluation of the experience is the next step. Here it was discovered that both during the period of lockdowns and as schools slowly reopened, it was realized that students were not at the same level. For instance, it was discovered that several students studying biology were at different stages of learning, with a few completely at a loss for the course. The next stage is analysis, where what may help or hinder the process is explored and tools which can assist are identified. So what can be used to assist in getting laptops in the hands of students and preparing the teachers for the online use? So what can be used to assist in getting laptops in the hands of students and preparing the teachers for use in the online platforms? In exploring tools which can assist in preparing teachers, YouTube and the IT teachers within the Ministry of Education and the school were identified. YouTube has a vast library of instructional videos which can assist teachers regardless of their computer skills to make use of the online teaching platforms. The IT teachers can also assist in this regard. Many teacher organizations host Professional Development Week. They can use this as an opportunity to sharpen their skills of their fellow educators. The next challenge is to get laptops in the hands of students. Given the size of this task, a multi-pronged approach was identified. First, an appeal can be made to non-governmental organizations such as the Police Youth Club, churches and other faith-based organizations in order to adopt a school and donate laptops to assist children. An appeal can also be made to the corporate sector to pool its collective resources and donate laptops to a worthy cause, the education of the nation's children. The power of foreign relations and policy can also be channeled. An appeal can be made to friendly countries such as China to donate laptops to us in our time of need. Another important stakeholder are the parents. An appeal can be made to those who can afford it to consider purchasing their child or children a laptop as part of an investment in their future. The next step is the conclusion. After much reflection, with a laptop in hand and teachers were prepared for the online platforms, the learning loss suffered during the pandemic would have been significantly reduced, thus allowing for students to more easily return to the classroom setting in a seamless manner. Next is the action plan. Here a blueprint is created to deal with current issues related to COVID-19 and to deal with future threats. These future threats include a resurgence of COVID-19. Currently, China is among the countries seeing a resurgence of the disease. This is also relevant to other pandemics which may have a similar impact on the education system, as well as the possibility of civil strife and war.
The benefits, implications, effectiveness, and relevance of reflective practice to the education policy. Reflective practice in relation to the education policy has benefits for teachers and students alike. Based on the education policy, teachers can use the reflective practice to enhance their areas of weakness with regards to their teaching skills, as well as identify the needs of their students collectively, with priority given to the individual needs of the students. Through reflective practice, teachers can use various teaching styles to meet the education needs of their students. With the identification of students' educational needs, positive relationships can be developed among students and teachers, bridging the gap between education and student failure, thereby increasing the rate of success. Due to the flexibility of the virtual classroom, teachers can boost classroom democracy, making the classroom more open to discussions with the teacher or among themselves. Reflection is the mindful consideration or being, usually having identified a problem which intends to act on for a purpose or expected outcome. This is according to Dewey of 1933 and Sean of 1987. Reflective practice in education involves the ongoing practice of reviewing and revising oneself and making enhancements and/or adjustments to one's teaching styles and methods. Teachers who exercise reflective practice tend to identify and eliminate barriers that may hinder professional growth within their practices. Through reflective practice, teachers can ensure that they meet the educational needs of all students regardless of race, social status, or intellectual inabilities or abilities. The effectiveness of reflective practice with regards to the education policy is strongly determined by the depth of reflection done by the reflective practitioner, namely teachers. Once in-depth, meaningful reflection is done, the desired goals and expected outcomes are achievable. In relation to the education policy, the overall goal of meeting the educational needs of all students would be measured as achievable as opposed to being impossible. It is extremely relevant to perform reflective practice when it comes to the education policy, as students have different learning styles. Reflective practice is a lifelong journey. In education, some children may have more educational demands than others. It is extremely relevant to ensure that no child feels as though they are being left behind or that their educational needs are not of utmost priority. Where teachers are to interact with students with learning and educational disabilities in the classroom, through reflective practice, only then can teachers identify their needs for further training in meeting the needs of other students.
Foundation for Learning Success Assignment from Subgroup 4. Collectively, we stand in agreement, illustrating the following objectives of this task. We do realize that in this era, post-COVID, everything and normal life will not be exactly as it once was. Therefore, we are gathering up the remnants and transforming them into a new world where innovative solutions became rampant and allowed us to push through the pandemic. Further along in this task, you will see our communique about developing an education policy for the secondary level students and a proposition for different levels of support for students and the parents. We all came together and thought of different processes that should be implemented to benefit the future educational system and aiding the minds of all secondary level students. In addition to referencing our units from FOUN 1501, we produced several objectives that created a window of possibilities to be considered. Then we began to rationalize the situation analysis, which was sentimental but profound, in explaining exactly what we aim to translate in this report. Further along, the stakeholders' involvement. As young individuals, we realized the need for outside help and seeking that we are also young and upcoming citizens of society. We are aware of the possible grants and donations that can and should be provided at this time. We all agree that not all students are able to aid themselves in maneuvering on new technology platforms, and also teachers as well. Therefore, we expressed how stakeholders' involvement is vital. Additionally, gaining access to education opportunities was research that clearly expressed what is happening in point 14, and our aim is to create change and see new developments. We also dove into how the curriculum and context delivery needs a change and re-evaluation. We feel that in order to assist our secondary level students and teachers in aiming for success in this post-COVID time, delivery of the curriculum must be adjusted. The proposition we proposed is that we can work and be effective in producing prominent results in the future of education.
Lastly, the role of reflective and reflexive practice. We thoroughly expressed how the adjustment coming back from learning at home to learning in the classroom was different and had different implications on teachers and students. Pointing out reflective theories was also included in expressing how we relate to managing the post-COVID era and moving forward in a better light. We believe that there are secure ways to create change in the educational policy in our upcoming young citizens of society and refuse to allow COVID-19 pandemic and its revolving negative effects to dictate our future.